There we are. Now we're recording it.
I was going to say,
Sorted.
because that would
Thank
be
you.
minutes.
Technical term. Bugger. I forgot to turn recording on. Hi, everybody. Right. Okay. We're now recording it. Oh, well. Oh, you missed all the good stuff. If you've just joined us, you missed all the good stuff. Damn it. And I had several people who actually emailed me to say, we're looking forward to the recording. I am sorry, but okay. So let me look at how many people do we have on the mailing list? The current number, the reminder, which goes out. Obviously, the reminder only went out a couple of days ago, so that goes out to the latest version of the mailing list. Went out to 340 people.
It's a
There's
lot of
a
people to say.
suggestion. So
No,
go
I
on.
was just saying that's a lot of people on the mailing list to say how many's shown up. But
Yeah.
I get it. I email probably 200 people, and I normally get about 15 to 20 in my class. So, you know.
I mean, just a comment. I mean, I've found these sessions really, really informative. I've had a sort of correspondence with Robert in the States, and it's been very, very valuable. And if we've got a 340 mailing list, I wouldn't mind for 6 months volunteering to be the minute secretary and do a note of the meeting. If I email it to you, Robert, and you send it out, because that if there's 340 people out there who are all instructors, that is a gold mine. And if we're going to address topics of significant interest, like, how do you market? How do you use technology? We had the session on the classics and how do you teach the classics qualities? Those are really good topics. So, maybe between, share the load, and maybe we can come up with some topics for maybe the next 3 to 6 months, knowing that there's August in the middle. And maybe if we do a note summary, just a single page, those 340 people might say, this looks interesting.
I mean, obviously, they all get a link to the recording when somebody remembers to turn the recording on. They all get a link to the recording, but obviously, and I mean, this goes back to what Kerrison said. Obviously, a lot of people are very busy, and
But
so
if you can catch up
minutes
afterwards, yeah.
minutes could be brilliant because they can be sent that so you get the minute. There's a link to the recording if you think it's interesting. If you don't think it's interesting, you don't have to wade through a recording.
Can I just say, when Nancy records our meetings and sends over, she also sends over a transcription as well, and that is like minutes. It says Sue Wayne says such and such and such and such, and somebody else added such and such and such and such. It is really good. I don't know how she does that, but it's in Zoom somewhere because she uses it.
Could you find out from her? Do you think you could ask her and let me know? Because if it is, because I know Zoom recently, being 6 months, whatever, have added a lot of AI features.
Yeah,
And it may be that one of those features is the ability to do that. In which case, great. Yeah, if you could let me know. And by the way, Gordon, yeah, I would really like it if you.
Yeah. I'll try and do a note of the 3 meetings I've attended and do a little sort of, this is the history of where we've got to, and a possible topic. I mean, if we're looking out 6 months, have we got 6 months worth of topics that we could look at? And if anybody's got suggestions, maybe just a little internal mailing list of the 6 or 8 people here could start that off.
What might be a better idea, Gordon, is I could send out an email to everybody, the 340, saying, would you like to be part of that little group?
Take it in stages, Robert. Don't run before you can walk. Let's just do it with this group first and get some sort of communication going here, with some sort of discipline of what are the future topics.
In that case, Gordon, that begs the question, Brian, Kerrison, Glenda, Sue, Robert, would you be willing and interested to be part of that little team that would be tasked with coming up with the next X number of months?
Well, it would be an email from me saying what suggest, and then I'll coordinate the responses. So keep it simple.
So,
Um,
sorry, wait a minute there, Gordon. Can people indicate yay or nay whether they would be interested? Thumbs up or thumbs down, people? Thumbs
we had
up
a
from
couple of thumbs.
Sue.
Yeah.
Glenda's thinking about it. Kerrison is no, thumbs
Yeah.
down. Brian is thumbs up. Robert?
Oh,
Robert is, come see, comes up. So's Glenda. Glenda, listen, I know I'm giving everybody a choice here, but I'm not giving you a choice. I'm co-opting you in, right? We need you. So, right, okay, Gordon.
could you send me the emails of the people here, and I'll do a draft note to send to everybody.
wait a moment. Let me. The answer to that is we need to ask them. Can I ask you? Sorry, let me just pull up a notepad. Right, I'll go round. Brian, can you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Are you happy for me to release your email to Gordon? Okay, so Brian. Ooh. Robert, same question for you. Mind you, you're already talking to him, so you're okay. Sorry, you will have to forgive me, but I spent too long as a computer consultant, 30 odd years. And so the whole security thing is part of my DNA. Sue, you
Yeah, I'm good.
oh, that's very unfortunate. I was hoping you would say you're really naughty. Glenda, being serious for a second, are you happy for me to? Yes, fine. Glenda. Okay, I will send you those emails.
So what I'll do is I'll
And you're
summarize.
sorry, my apologies. 1 minute, Gordon.
Oh, Kerrison.
You're okay for me to do that, Kerrison. Right, lovely. Bear with me. Yes, carry on, Gordon.
I'll try and do a summary of the last 2 or 3 meetings. So I think we've addressed some really interesting topics, and I'll put a number of suggestions, and people can add to them or reject them and see what they do. But I think it's too important a forum, as Robert says. There's a huge amount. I mean, when I came here, I was amazed at the depth of knowledge and the sheer breadth of knowledge that there was in the group. So it was a real privilege. So yeah, I've learned a lot. And unlike you, Robert, I actually ordered the Amazon books and have got them at the end of my dining table here. And I'm going through them because I think it's the cheapest way to get knowledge. And when I was in a management consultancy, that was the recommendation. Buy as many books as you like and put it on expenses, because that is the best way to progress knowledge. So I'll maybe include
Well,
a short reading list.
I assume everybody who teaches does do so through some kind of vehicle that allows, if they buy a book on Tai Chi, for it to be a business expense. If you don't, you need to speak to a local friendly accountant and figure out how to do that. Because why pay for things out of taxable money if you don't need to? By the way, the other thing that I would like to promote, and I will keep trying to remember to moan about this, is I find Glenda knows I'm a fan. I find Glenda's insights very useful. I think we would benefit as a group, obviously, from having more instructors that participate, but I also think we would benefit as a group from having more students like Glenda who are passionate and interested in the subject of Tai Chi, because I do have a sneaky suspicion and I'm trying to think of the polite words. I can't think of them. A lot of Tai Chi instructors, myself included, I think sometimes have a over inflated idea of their own knowledge and worth. And I think having students on board maybe would ground us. So where do we go from here, boys and girls? What are we doing next?
I'm not quite sure. We actually completed topic 2. To be fair, I'm not sure if the question was.
No, Gordon sidetracked it, actually. I'm not going to have a moan at him, but he sidetracked it. So,
what?
Robert?
Yes, Robert.
Yeah, I wanted to amend what I said about appealing to the principals in answering questions or correcting students. There's another factor that I use that I feel is even a higher level, and that is the self-defense aspect. In other words, if you do something that is not consistent with the self-defense aspect of Tai Chi, which I've been exposed to, I'm not saying I'm a high-level master at it. If you cannot explain, let's put it this way, if you can't explain it that it's correct in terms of the self-defense, you really have now a job to do to try to justify it. In other words, I feel that everything we do in the form, how we do it, should be consistent with the self-defense aspect. I could give examples of that if you want.
I would agree with you. I mean, I teach Tai Chi for self-defense, so I'm biased. I would agree with you, except I would say probably not from I think that the words that I use when I'm teaching is self-defense. I think from the point of what you've said, the word we ought to use is either combat or fighting. In other words, I see self-defense as very much a modern reimagining of the power of Tai Chi, but bringing it in line with the social and legal framework that we all have to operate under. So I think I agree with you with that rider. And the other thing I would say, and I can't remember who it is, she's not here. We certainly have a couple of people in this group, maybe more, who have trained and are instructors in forms of Tai Chi that do not recognize the fighting art, and I'm not sure how you reconcile that. I think
Okay,
is it the Paul Lamb stuff that
But I mean, you can't. I mean, I use self-defense. I think self-defense is a perfect term. Combat means something entirely different. I mean, my teacher is a sniper, and if you want, you want someone taken out, he's got a much better way of doing it. But on the other hand, the self-defense aspect is fine. So, I mean, I think you. I mean, Robert had a beautiful demonstration of the wrist roll to protect in a video that I was looking at the other day. And it just explains so much. And it was integral to what he was doing. And it just showed it better than, I've seen elsewhere. So I think those sorts of self-defense aspects can be illuminating in the same way that demonstrating. I mean, my students are amazed at the power they have when they have the right structure and the right openness in their posture, and you've got someone pushing against them and they're holding them and they're pushing into the floor. I mean, that excites people in a way that, I think is demonstrates the power of Tai Chi, but it's an internal power. It's not an external power. Combat is an external power, and it's the internal power that makes what we're doing so unique.
I think I agree with what you're saying, Gordon. I think the problem is, and this is something else we've discussed many times, I think the problem is both with Tai Chi originally and Tai Chi today, the major problem that we have is in the language that is used. The language that we used when we are teaching and the language like here. So for me, the difference, just to explain, the difference between self-defense and combat is I was introduced to an adaptation of the 24 move form, which remember is a modern form which was not designed primarily for self-defense. It was designed for exercise. I was shown a reimagining or a reinterpretation of that, where literally every move within the form resulted in your opponent either being maimed or killed. Now, from a self-defense point of view, it is difficult, especially in England. I know the laws in England. I'm less familiar with the American laws. In England, it is relatively difficult to justify killing somebody who is not actively trying to kill you and has the potential to kill you. So in other words, if a 14-year-old, 3-foot tall girl comes up to me and says, "Give me your money, mate," ripping their head off and whatever is not legal under the English framework. There are always exceptions, but fundamentally. So fundamentally, whether you call it combat or whether you call it self-defense is about definition.
Robert, the guy that invented the 24, Professor Lee Dae-Yin, it's clear that every aspect of that 24, when it was invented in 55 or whatever, was designed for self-defense. They never separated out the posture and the movement from the application. And if you look at his book, it's full of what's the application of the move. So the 24, and there's the book that and it's got all the detail in there of everything you'd want to know about the long form. Sue, you know this book, don't you?
Yes.
It's got all the detail in there, and it's all about non-aggressive self-defense.
Which is
Garrison
a
had
modern reinterpretation. Sorry, Garrison, you're dying to come in, aren't you, sir?
Yeah, only in that. I mean, I show students the self-defense application of each of the moves so that they understand what they're doing. That's an important part of the visualization for students. It does help them so that rather than just randomly waving their arms around, it's oh, I see. Ah, right, okay. And then you also do have to say to people, but do be careful with this, because if you find yourself actually applying it in real life, you will actually kill someone. This move does break someone's neck, and so do say to people that do be very careful. But of course, especially with beginners who. I mean, the most important thing I find with people is telling them to relax, because people are just so sort of tense like this. And if one of them was actually jumped on by a mugger, they're not really gonna be able to pull it out of the hat and actually use it. And in my 40 years of studying Tai Chi, there was only one occasion when I actually found myself having to defend myself, and that was when in a relationship I was in 25 years ago with a woman who turned out to be a psychotic psychopath with a personality disorder, who physically assaulted me a number of times, including attacking me once with a hammer. And it made me realize that, right, all this Tai Chi that I've learned is actually really very lethal. And like you were saying yourself, here in the UK, you do have to be quite careful about not killing people. And I find myself really having to reel it in and make sure that she didn't actually manage to hit me with the hammer she was attacking me with, but at the same time defending myself in such a way that I didn't actually injure her at all. So I don't know. I mean, that's just my two pence worth. But
And you good example actually there, Carrison, of if you had injured her, you would have a good legal defense, because an attack with a
yeah,
hammer is a potentially lethal attack.
I would say
I'm glad you didn't.
uh, as I was saying, that I do talk through the self-defense application of each of the moves so that people can visualize it. But then I always say that the first rule of self-defense is awareness and avoidance. That I mean, like I said, in 40 years, there's only been one occasion when I've actually had to defend myself physically, and I'm you just be aware of your environment. In fact, that's an important part of what Tai Chi is all about, of that sort of balance of awareness of outside and inside. And when you're doing Tai Chi and you go into that meditative state where you're aware of everything around you without being focused on any one thing in particular, and that balance of awareness of inside and outside. And it is really that. It's the first rule of self-defense is awareness. And the actual application of the moves, I think, is a secondary character. But I have had the experience of meeting people. So, oh, you do Tai Chi. Well, what sort of Tai Chi do you do? Oh, well, I do real Tai Chi. So, right. Oh, I see. Okay. So, what do you mean? Well, we do it as a martial art. Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. And again, 35 years ago, when I was training as an osteopath, I think from those who know me before that I became an osteopath in order to understand what Tai Chi is from a viewpoint of biomechanics and anatomy and physiology and so on. And in the training clinic, I had this young chap come in and say, "Well, I injured myself doing Tai Chi." I thought, "Well, that's quite interesting. Sort of, how did you injure yourself doing Tai Chi? Because to me, the whole point of Tai Chi is to avoid injury because it's all about self-awareness and posture and movement and balance and being able to move correctly so that you don't injure yourself. So how did you injure yourself doing Tai Chi?" So, well, I was doing a shoulder throw on a 17-stone man. I thought, right, I see. And this guy was actually wearing a t-shirt saying Practical Tai Chi Chuan. And he was one of these ones who sort of, well, we do real Tai Chi because it's all about self-defense. And I was thinking sort of, well, why were you, someone who you look as if you weigh about 9 stone, why were you trying to throw a 17-stone man over your shoulder? What is your instructor teaching you if that's what you're doing? So anyway, I don't know. I'll shut up now.
Yes, Robert.
Yeah, I like the distinction, to make the distinction between being exposed to the self-defense aspect to studying it, which I tell a lot of my students will say, not a lot, but some of my students will say, you're teaching self-defense, and I don't want to see that. And it upsets some people because they think of it as anger, which it shouldn't be, and wanting to hurt somebody, which is not what it is. It's just protecting yourself, so that you can come home without being injured and doing the minimum. But I feel that it's important that students be exposed to the self-defense aspect, not to have to necessarily be thrown, be punched, be kicked, be put into locks, be pinned to the floor and shown that you have total control over them. I don't think that that's necessary. I think at least to have some understanding of how it's used for self-defense, and I feel that's enough for my students. Some of them want to learn more. They're interested in it because they've studied other arts, other self-defense arts, and I show them whatever I know and work with them in that regard, but only for those who do. I think the general students, though, should at least be exposed to see how it works, to see the principles involved, because that informs how you practice it. It informs the mindset of how you practice it.
I do wish sorry, I'll come to you in a second, Glenda. You need to unmute yourself. I do wish we had somebody here who did teach I think it's the Paul Lamb system, where they won't actually physically touch another student at all. So nothing other than verbal correction. So no physical correction is ever given. That, as I say, I'm not going to swear that it's the Paul Lamb system, but I know we had somebody on who taught like that, and it'd be interesting to get that opinion again. But yes, Glenda.
Just speaking also as a as a student or a person who I couldn't imagine hurting anybody. I do agree with Robert that learning the self-defense, or however you want to, what terminology you want to use, aspect of it is very helpful, because sometimes when I'm not quite when I haven't gotten quite something just right, Bob will show how it's used in self-defense, and then all of a sudden the pieces fall into place because it makes a lot of sense. But even some of those things, well, it's good to have the ability to protect yourself, because you never know if you might. But even some of those things you can use in daily movement, and you know, even if you have to push something that's in the way, or knowing how to do something like that properly, where I know learning some of the self-defense aspects of it, if you're doing something the wrong way and you're throwing rather than coming from the center, you may dislocate a joint or injure it or something. I think it is very useful. So I that's just from not a very broad base of knowledge, but from my own experience.
No, thank you for that. Sue, I want to come back to you, because you tried to put us back on the track of the question that was, is technology helping or hindering appreciation and understanding in the non-practicing general? And we went off at a completely different tangent.
That's
And
the way
I've
it goes.
seen you sitting there as good as gold, rather than pulling your hair out, which, you know, I can't do
Knowledge,
that.
and it's all interesting. So, I don't mind if it moves on and doesn't get discussed. But I do think, that we put I don't put very much on YouTube. I've got to be honest. I'll video myself and then I hate it and delete it. And then really I should just stop it and just get on with putting it up. So instead what I did was I put Master Yang Jun up on my YouTube page, because he's the Grandmaster. So, but a lot of students come to me and they'll say, I've tried, I've been on YouTube and I've looked at this and I've looked at that, and what they tend to do then is they'll probably be looking at several different similar moves from different families, or different teachers, and they'll all be slightly different, and then they get confused. And then they come to me because, or I guess not necessarily me, but an instructor, to find how to do it properly, because there's so many different variances. I'm yet to find somebody who's actually learned Tai Chi online. I've got to be honest, it's really difficult when you're stood doing a move like that, trying to look at the TV, it just doesn't work, does it? So unless you've got several appliances around you, devices, whatever, all looking at the same thing, it's difficult to do it from a TV or a monitor, in my opinion. So I think the YouTube videos work, and they promote the teacher and the class, I think, for their students. That's my opinion on it anyway.
Have any of you come across people, have any of you had people come to you who have studied or seen Tai Chi YouTube or anywhere else, and have, I'm trying to think how to phrase this, have come away with an understanding or an interpretation that is sufficiently different to what you teach so that it's problematic?
My heart sinks every time a new student says, "Oh, I've done some Tai Chi before," or "I used to do some Tai Chi 10 or 15," because you think, "Oh, right, okay." You're going to have to forget everything you've learned before, and you're going to have to accept that you've got to start again from scratch with me as an individual, because I've got my style. What I teach is there are going to be big similarities, but there are also going to be a lot of differences, and I do find it frustrating. I mean, you get quite a few students like that who then are able to let go and start again, but there are some who think they get so entrenched, and well, that's not what my teacher 15 years ago used to say. So, well, okay, fair enough. You know, or you get the thing of someone saying, well, I'm not feeling that it's right. It doesn't feel right to me. So, well, yeah, that's because you're not doing it correctly. And it is, I do find it frustrating. But
I don't have that problem. I mean, I've had a lot of people who have transitioned, and I mean, as long as they know that they're going to transition, it's not a problem. I mean, they
But
just adapt. It takes them a year or two or three, but that's true of any Tai Chi. But if they've had a nibble, they're often the more enthusiastic students. But going back to Sue's point, I think I'm using video as an adjunct to the teaching. You know,
yes, I think
trying to get beginners up to a level where they can do it well. Typically, in the past, took me what 7, 8 years, whereas now I think they're getting up to a standard within 2 or 3 years, a similar standard. So if we can use the technology, maybe I'm getting them to be a better teacher, but if we can use the technology and the teaching, including demonstrating the applications, then they're going to get there quicker. And that's why I think it's essential. I'm now seriously thinking about trying to teach the qualities. I know we had this discussion before, but I've been trying to teach the classic qualities that you get after practicing for 20 years, 2 hours a day. I'm now teaching my students some of those qualities, and they're picking it up even if they've only been doing it 2 or 3 years. So I think we're we're not sufficiently confident about ourselves to say, well, this works. You know, if a group of 10 or 20 people can get up to speed within 2 to 3 years to a standard that would normally take, maybe back in China where they don't get instruction, 20 years, then that's got to be a good thing. And you know, part of the joy of working with Professor Lee Day-Yin is he was willing to share his knowledge. You know, him and his brother were some of the top 100 martial artists in China, but he was willing to come over and teach for the last 25 years, and so all of that knowledge has been spread. So I think we're in a situation now. We're almost in a tipping point where Tai Chi could be as popular as Pilates or yoga, which it never has been, because we've got the opportunity to say this has health benefits, which is one of the topics I think we might want to discuss in the next 3 to 6 months. It's got self-defense benefits. It's got lots of other mental calmness benefits. So there's a huge range of things that we can do if we're confident and we show that. In the same way that I did the survey to show that the students who've been doing it longer had fewer falls. Well, you can debate that one for till the cows come home, but a little bit of empirical research put that question to bed. Tai Chi has significant health benefits, and the more you do and the longer you do, the better the benefits. So maybe we just need to be a bit more confident.
Also, I think something that really does need to be said, and we've said this regarding marketing, but I think it fits in with what you and what Kerrison have just said. Different teachers attract different student groups. Student group with teacher A is not homogeneous with student group with teacher B. And obviously, because the thing has spread so much throughout the world, the number of people, I mean, I often tease my students that they must be crazy because their instructor's crazy. I was talking to one of my students the other day, and we were talking about an instructor who teaches without ever pretty much giving any instruction. In other words, minimal verbal instruction. And he has quite a good class. He gets people going to him and they like what he does. we also, both the student and I, have trained with another teacher who actually, and this is very rare in the world, he actually teaches via talking more than I do. He can spend literally 50 minutes of an hour-long class talking to his students, but he has students who like that style. So I think it does need to be taken on board that what you're saying, Gordon, is absolutely true, but also what you're saying, Kerrison, is also absolutely true.
I've got students, 2 students, in fact, who are at the end of 3rd section, so doing really well. But also, one of them's doing Wudang Tai Chi on a different night, and the other one's doing Chen Man Ching on a different night. And that is quite fun because they're obviously doing something completely different to everybody else, because the 2 forms are getting muddled up. I guess both forms are being diluted slightly, because I'm sure when they go to their other instructors, they're doing it a little bit yang, and when they come to me, I get a little bit of Chen Man Ching, you know. So it's quite interesting. But I tend to tell the group that they are learning another Tai Chi form as well. Make it clear to everybody, and then I say, and I'm not going to be putting your hand in the correct position, which I don't tend to do anyway, unless they're doing something that's going to hurt them. But let them do their own thing and let them find their own form between the 2, because as long as they're enjoying it and having fun and not hurting themselves, I'm happy.
No, I think that's very sensible. Also, the fact that I recently trained, I don't know if any of you know Alex Dong. I trained for a couple of days with him, and that's what might take me to northwest USA later in the year to train with him again. And I did house style, a little bit of house style for the first time, completely different to anything I'd done. I did Alex Dong's Dong family, which was created by his great-grandfather, which is a Yang offshoot, which again was not radically different, but different. And the point of all this yabbering, because I know Gordon doesn't like it when I yabber, the point of all this is there is absolutely not one form of Tai Chi that is better, whether you do Chen Man Ching or Sun. And of course, Sun Lu Tang had multiple influences on his Yang style Tai Chi for him to develop Sun. So you might find that one of your students who's doing a bit of what you do and a bit of what somebody else does, give them 5 or 10 years, they might create their own style, and it might end up in 50 years' time being the world's best style of Tai Chi.
Who knows?
All blooming good in my book. With the rider that you said, that people are not doing anything that is going to damage them. Obviously, take that as read. Brian, I haven't been ignoring you, but I know you are generally comfortable just to watch and to listen. But I do want to say, sir, if at any point you do want to jump in, please do, Brian. I don't want you to feel that you're being excluded in any way. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Robert, just
yes.
2 seconds. If you like, and I share my screen, I could show you the analytics I get from YouTube.
Give me a quick thumbs up, people. Are people interested in that? Yeah, okay, one's good enough. If Sue says yes, we'll do it. Share your screen. Let me.
You need to turn me on to share.
Yeah, bear with me. I will allow. That's something that Zoom has improved enormously. It's so much easier to do.
Yeah, no, it is. So I should be sharing screen now.
Yes.
And if I can work the technology.
Yes.
Okay, I should have. So this is, I need to maximize that. And my, isn't that classic? Okay, I've got my control panel over, so I'm going to stop share. It's all right. I'll come back to it. Don't worry. I just need to move something down.
You're still sharing at the moment, so
Okay.
so what's the phrase? Not for work, not suitable for work. Have you got any of that?
No, that's fine. All right. So I can't maximize this, so apologies for that. I might be able to stretch it, I suppose. There you go. So the content, if you want to look at it, um, ranges from sort of 2 or 3 minute clips doing detail up to a group demonstration. So each of these is either teaching Qigong or Tai Chi 24. And I'm going it 2 steps at a time, so people haven't got to go through the whole thing. A bit of a class demo with the stick and the sword, some instruction on the Tai Chi fan form. So essentially, you can just look to see what you want. And the interesting thing is the views, which is the column to the right. I mean, I put these up not knowing whether anyone would ever want to use these. And what's amazing is these little, so 8 treasures, part 1, 11 people have looked, 24 form 5 and 6, 33. Steps 1 and 2, I mean, I didn't realize that, 117 views. So you can get your analytics and it shows you, I've had 294 views in the last 24 days. So it's proved quite useful. And each time I do an email shot, I get another peak in the views. So if I send out an email saying these are steps, 12 to 24, I'll get a sudden hit and people will have a look at it. So I'm amazed. I mean, all of this should cost an absolute fortune. It's not cost me anything at all. I'm not making any money from it because I don't know how to do that yet. But these went on today, and already someone's viewed them. So if you want to learn Dao Yin, Yang Shen Gong, the general health set, you can go to that video and see moves 7 and 8, moves 3 and 4. If you're really stuck on steps 20 to 22 of the 24.
I like that you have, like Robert was saying, you have relatively short videos, that nice bite-sized chunks that people can assimilate easily.
No one wants to spend an hour looking at a video. I mean, if you can get it down. I mean, there's one there for 25 minutes, because that was a whole fusion session with a warm-up, some Qigong and the Tai Chi going, both ways. But there's a form that the class can use and see themselves doing it. So yeah, I've found it really useful, and I think the students are as well. So
that's good. By the way, what you said about monetizing it, there's about 3 or 4 things you need to monetize on YouTube. The one that I keep, I've ticked the boxes for the first 2. The one that I fail on is that you need a minimum of 4,000 hours of viewing per annum, as it were, or in a rolling annual basis, before YouTube will come to you and say, hey, would you like some money? Up until then, you don't. And I can't remember how many hours viewing I get a year, but it is less. I know that it is less than 4,000. Unfortunately, of course, YouTube got bought by Google. Prior to Google owning YouTube, I did used to get money. In 1 year, I actually earned 50 quid. But then YouTube bought it and they changed the rules. But it's whether you get money out of it or not, whether you get students out of it or not, really, for most of us, that's not the issue. I mean, certainly for me, certainly for Robert in the USA, and I suspect for you, Gordon, as well. I don't know. So it would be, and sorry, I'll come to you in a second, Kerrison. It would be nice to earn 20,000, 50,000, whatever a year, but it's not high on our priority list. Yes, Kerrison.
So I was just needing to say thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah.
I need to go now. It's been very interesting. I was particularly interested that bit just now about YouTube because as I mentioned, I have got a YouTube channel, but I don't have anything on it at all yet, and I need to get my head around how to use it and tie it in with my website and everything. So it's been very interesting hearing and just absorbing things by osmosis. But I have got to go now. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you at the next one. Yeah.
Thanks, Garrison.
Cheers, then. Bye then.
Bye. I think actually we will terminate the session because there's obviously zero interest in actually doing any physical stuff. So yes, Sue. Sorry.
Well, I was actually looking forward to that. However, I have also got to go because I only allowed 2 hours, and my other half nags at me after a while.
What I
So
will do,
if we could do that in the future.
Yeah, what I'll do, Sue, is I will offer that, I think, as a separate little session, maybe where we could all get together just to do that, maybe.
I think it's really interesting to see what other people do as warm-ups. I tend to do the same thing every single time because my students like it. I tried to change it once and they were like, oh, I don't like that. So, but so I kind of just do that same thing. But it's interesting to see what others do and you know whether it's worth looking at and bringing in.
Lovely. Okay, let's wind it up. Obviously, Gordon, you need to email me. I need to. Oh, Gordon, do you want to stay online once we? I'm just trying to think. If I turn recording off, hold on. Let me turn recording off.
I'm going to shoot.
Bye, Sue.
Take care, everybody.
Right. Bye.